Right ahead of the broadcast tonight, lawyers lose their bid to stop the dusk to dawn curfew, even as the number of positive coronavirus cases in the country hit 50. The Ministry of Health is now warning that if you don't wash your hands and if you don't observe social distancing, Kenya could see 10,000 coronavirus cases in the next 30 days. Yes, you heard me right, 10,000 positive COVID-19 cases by the end of April. That and more coming your way over this 1 hour, and much more, of course, including. Well, that's right. Ebro Primetime News on this 30th day of March 2020, the last Monday of this month, begins right now. Good evening and welcome aboard. My name is Kenneth Kazungu. Our sign language interpreter for tonight is Joyce Wairimo. The Law Society of Kenya has lost in its bid to challenge government's decision to impose a countrywide dusk-to-dawn curfew, claiming it is unconstitutional. However, Justice Weldon Korir this afternoon ordered the Inspector General of Police, that is Hilary Mutyambai, to publish guidelines on the conduct of police during curfew in major daily newspapers of national circulation within the next 48 hours. Judge Korir has also prohibited the police from using excessive force during the curfew. The case by the Law Society of Kenya will now be mentioned on April 2nd via online. The LSK had earlier this morning moved to court seeking to suspend the night curfew imposed by the state. They argued that the curfew is unconstitutional and the excessive use of force on Kenyans to enforce the curfew remains illegal. Was that coming in even as the curfew now enters its fourth night tonight. Now, the government is now more than ever asking you to observe safe distance principle with the confirmation that the recent spread of COVID-19 cases are being spread from within. And with the numbers now hitting 50, Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe says it is now business unusual. Diana Rachel Mbugua with more.
Kenya has now confirmed 8 more positive cases of the coronavirus, bringing the total number to 50.
Apart from those in mandatory quarantine, we have also tested an additional 88 samples of close contacts of the 42 confirmed cases. Out of this number, we have received confirmation of 6 patients who have tested positive for the coronavirus disease. An additional 1 patient from the Aga Khan Hospital. This now brings the total number of confirmed cases in the last 24 hours to 8.
With Kagwe confirming that the 1,211 cases are currently being monitored. The health CS has, however, continued to make emphasis on social distancing, noting that the virus is now spreading through community transmission, despite Kenyans being cautioned to maintain the 1 meter to 2 meter rule to avoid spreading the virus.
Community transmission means that the disease is no longer imported from the outside, but is here with us. We are now spreading it among ourselves. We must now raise our level of alert and intervention measures.
And as the daily dusk to dawn curfew continues, employers have been urged to release their employees by 4 p.m. in a bid to beat the curfew, which has seen a number of commuters stranded with lack of public service vehicles available.
The employers, please do not withhold people's salaries, people's wages, just because of the situation that currently exists. And for clarification, the 4 p.m. departure is not to say that you start reducing people's pay or people's salaries. It is simply to allow them to leave a bit earlier.
Kenyans have also been urged to avoid traveling up country in avoidance of putting the elderly at risk of the coronavirus infections.
We would like to urge in the strongest terms possible to urge those who live in Nairobi to stay in Nairobi, those living up country to avoid traveling to Nairobi as much as they can. And when they do, to keep the social and physical distances that we are talking about.
With the 50 confirmed cases, Nairobi is the leading county, tallying with 34 cases, Kilifi 6 cases, Mombasa with 3 cases, Kajiado, Kwale and Kitui with 1 case each. Among the 50, 26 are male while 24 are female. Currently, a total of 1,005 persons have been tested in the country, with over 20,000 test kits available in the country. Diana Rachel Mbogwa, Ibru TV.
And even as the numbers are expected to rise, the government of Kenya has directed the Ministry of Education to work with county governments to identify at least 20 schools in each county, which will serve as coronavirus facilities. Health CS Mutahi Kagwe noted that the schools will then be prepared and equipped as part of the COVID-19 preparedness if the cases surge, as hospitals will not be enough to contain the patients who test positive for the virus. To the new headache now and the reason why you should be worried. And the Ministry of Health now says that the total number of coronavirus cases in the country could rise to 10,000 in the next 30 days. Health Director General Dr. Patrick Amoth says the already bad situation could be made worse by the revelation that the virus is no longer imported into the country, but is now spreading from within.
Is now being spread through community transmission.
In a classical case of new week, fresh headache.
This virus is not following a particular trend. Our modeling puts us at having about 1,000 cases by the first week of April.
The government now painting a grim picture of what to expect in the next month if the spread of the COVID-19 is not contained.
What may work against us, of course, is our weak health system. And of course, our disease burden, especially HIV. Especially when we have community transmission as confirmed by Waziri, then especially those who are not adherent to the medicines would have lack of viral suppression, therefore could be at risk.
Given that the threat is now becoming more serious because the virus is now being spread through community transmission, the Health Ministry now says initial modeling data showed that coronavirus cases by mid-April will likely hit 5,000 and rise to 10,000 by the end of April, in absence of drastic intervention.
And we postulate that we'll have 5,000 cases by mid-April and potentially 10,000 cases by 30th of April. So those are the figures that we are working with in terms of how we preposition our personal protective equipment, how we preposition our test kits, how we preposition our human resource, and how we preposition our isolation and quarantine facilities.
The government is clearly facing an uphill task as it grapples to stop the spread of the coronavirus. So far, the government has banned public gatherings, including churches, shut down schools, and even asked Kenyans to work from home, capping it with a dusk to dawn curfew. And today,
we need to take a number of measures, with the most immediate being in the border transport industry.
Border borders, a popular mode of public transport in Kenya's rural and urban areas, are now on the spotlight, where the new measures will be imposed on the sector, including carrying only one passenger and wear masks.
We shall be spreading out masks in the counties for this purpose, but irrespective, they must wear, the border rider and the passenger must both wear masks. This is a measure so that that business can continue if it continues to follow the rules.
The government is also urging persons living in urban centers to avoid traveling upcountry, as they risk transmitting the disease to rural residents, many of whom are elderly, with studies suggesting that the elderly are more likely to succumb to the virus.
We would like to urge, in the strongest terms possible, to urge those who live in Nairobi to stay in Nairobi, those living up country to avoid traveling to Nairobi as much as they can.
The sentiments come in the backdrop of increasing cases of coronavirus in Kenya, with the total now at 50. Nairobi County has 37 cases, Kilifi has 6 cases, Mombasa 4 cases, while Kajiado, Kwale and Kitui each has 1 case. Right, here is what you can do and how you can help achieve, of course, to reduce that particular cases coming up in this new reality where the virus is now spreading from within, and the government now saying that social distancing could be the ultimate antidote. Now, these two words, social distancing, has now become like a national chorus apart, of course, across the country. But the biggest question now remaining, what is social distancing? How far is a meter? How can you achieve social distancing at your work setup, at home setup, and even when you go about your day-to-day activities? Here now is Diana Rachel Mbugua, who tries to demonstrate what social distancing means.
As we wait for scientists and healthcare professionals to develop a vaccine for COVID-19, there is another readily available tool that we here at Kenya can use to just avoid the spread of the virus, and that is social distancing, especially now that we have 50 cases, confirmed cases here in the country, with the Ministry of Health saying that this is spreading through community transmission. Now, I'm going to demonstrate how the 1 meter and the 2 meter rule works. So this one tile is 1 foot. So I'll go 2, 3, that's 3 foot. That makes it 1 meter. So the 2 meter rule, that is another 3 tiles. Now that is 2 meters. That is the distance you're supposed to keep from the next person. So my colleague here, Amelia Kisenya and Davis Mberia, are sitting at least 2 meters apart. That means in an office setup, there has to be at least 1 seat in between or 2 seats in between to maintain that social distance. Now, a study done by the World Health Organization states that when people practice social distancing, 1 person can infect 2.5 people in a 5-day period, while 406 people would be infected in a 30-day period. When 50% of people practice social distancing, 1 person can infect 1.25% person in a 5-day period, while 15 people would be infected in a 30-day period as a result. Also, when 70% of people practice social distancing, 1 person could infect 0.625 others. In a 5-day period. Also in a 30-day period, 2.5 persons would be infected as a result. That's why Mutahi Kagwe has encouraged everybody, if you can, kindly practice the 2 meter rule just to avoid spreading the coronavirus. Also stay at home, also avoid going to up country just to reduce the risk of infecting the elderly.
Well, very much thanks to Diana Rachel Mbugua. At least now we know 3 normal tiles. It's about 3 feet, it's about a meter. If you want to keep 2 meters distance, you're going to have a distance like 6 steps. That's about 2 meters distance. Diana Rachel Mbugua, thank you for that. Now, member states of the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, or the IGAD, have resolved to establish an IGAD emergency fund to fight the coronavirus pandemic. Now, the heads of states of Kenya, Uganda, Ethiopia, Djibouti, Sudan, Somalia and South Sudan in a teleconference held on Monday say the move aims at mitigating the economic impact of the pandemic. As a result, the IGAD Secretariat was tasked to formulate appropriate response programs that will be discussed by the leaders. Now, the teleconference saw the leaders agree to forge a joint approach to curb the spread of the coronavirus disease. The main focus was on the challenges the region is facing in managing the global pandemic. Now, this will see relevant agencies enhance cooperation in border control and management with a view of ensuring safety along common borders and the guarantee the movement of cargo. While that teleconference was going on, another consultative meeting on the national response to the coronavirus pandemic between the National Development Implementation and the Communication Cabinet Committee and the Executive Committee of the Council of Governors was being held, where it resolved a number of measures to help battle the coronavirus pandemic. Here is more.
The meeting, co-chaired by Internal Security Minister and Chair of Council of Governors Wycliffe Oparanya, agreed that county governments waive cess levies on all food items in order to facilitate the movement of food, guarantee affordability of food items, essential household goods and critical supplies. The meeting also agreed to fully support the ongoing engagement of local industry in mass production of personal protective equipment. County governors also agreed to explore inter-county structures that will provide quarantine facilities if needed. The national government shall also support the county government's efforts towards protecting vulnerable economic sectors such as transport and informal artisans by supplying the Council of Governors every day with 10,000 pieces of 20-litre bottle of hand sanitizers to be distributed to all 47 county governments. It was also agreed that the National Treasury shall fast-track the disbursement of the requisite resources to support the county governments in hiring the additional frontline healthcare staff required. The meeting also agreed that the Cabinet Secretary of Interior and Coordination of National Government shall require all employers to ensure that their staff who are not designated as critical or essential services provider leave the workplace on later than 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The meeting urged Kenyans to do all that is required to ensure that Kenya effectively addresses and triumphs over the coronavirus pandemic. The coronavirus, which has been declared a global pandemic, has so far killed over 35,000 people. In Kenya, over 50 people are infected, with the national government monitoring over 1,000 people. Milia Kisenyo for Ebro TV.
Now, the National Assembly has submitted to the Ministry of Health a list of MPs and parliamentary staff it wants tested for COVID-19 as the country scales up efforts to curb the spread of the pandemic. Over 50 legislators and parliamentary staff may have interacted with Rabai MP Kamoti Mwamkale, who recently tested positive for the virus. The two-term MP is said to have contracted the disease after coming into contact with Kilifi Deputy Governor Gideon Saburi during the March 9th burial of Msambweni MP Suleiman Dore. Official records of the National Assembly show that Mwamkale was in Parliament on March 17 for 19 minutes just before the House adjourned. Among those who will be subjected to testing and mandatory quarantine are members of the House Committees on the Justice and Legal Affairs, or JLAC, and Delegated Legislation, where Mwamkale, who is a lawyer, is a member. It is presumed that the two committees, with a combined membership of 38, may have held meetings in the presence of the MP. All right, staying with matters touching on the National Assembly, and Nyali Member of Parliament, that is Muhammad Ali, wants the leadership of the National Assembly to convene a special sitting to discuss measures that will cushion Kenyans from tough economic times occasioned by the spread of the coronavirus pandemic. Ali says that Parliament ought to intervene and protect common citizens from the hard times.
The coronavirus pandemic has continued wreaking havoc on country's health infrastructure, and Kenya has not been immune to the effect of the pandemic. However, for one Muhammad Ali, the MP for Nyali, although the country seems to be doing much, it's simply not enough adequately to deal with the pandemic. Ali says there is need for strategic planning in case the virus continues to spread in Africa like it is doing in other parts of the world. The MP says the Parliament needs to convene so early to play its constitutional mandate by putting in place fiscal measures through legislative interventions or other mechanisms to assist vulnerable Kenyans that have been forced out of employment. In a letter addressed to Aden Duale, the leader of majority in the Parliament, Ali says there is need to approve a budget that will allow the Ministry of Health to procure the necessary equipment to fight COVID-19. Mr. Ali pointed measures like protecting Kenyans against eviction during this time where some peoples have lost their jobs, and the Ministry of Health is advising Kenyans to stay at home and practice social distancing. In the letter copied to the minority leader John Mbadi, Ali also asked the parliament to approve a budget that will aid the Ministry of Health to procure the necessary equipment to fight COVID-19. We might also need to approve budgetary allocation and tax measures to assist the Ministry of Health procure additional ventilators and other medical equipment required. Ali also called upon members of the parliament to discuss measures that will cushion Kenyans against employment. Members of the parliament are likely to meet next week to approve measures announced on Wednesday by President Uhuru Kenyatta to cushion the economy against the adverse effects of the COVID-19 pandemic.
All right, let us take a very quick break at the August House. When we come back, we'll be telling you about the members of parliament and other elected leaders, where Kenyans are asking the big question, where are our leaders at this particular moment? You want to stick around for that. All right, welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Before coming to that story about leaders and where they are at this particular moment, the government has formed a special COVID-19 emergency response fund whose aim is to mobilize resources for emergency response towards containing the spread, effects and impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. President Uhuru Kenyatta directed for the formation of the fund, whose seed capital of the fund shall be drawn from the exchequer, including the voluntary salary cuts undertaken by the senior rank of the executive, the judiciary, legislature, and county governments. The exchequer contributions shall be supplemented by donations by Kenyan individuals and corporate entities, grants from development partners and multinational institutions, and such other gifts subscriptions. The fund will be headed by Jane W. Karuku, with members of the board consisting of captains of industry, among them Michael Joseph, Dr. James Mwangi, Dr. Narendra Naval, Joshua Oigara, Jeremy Awori, Washira Waruru, Mohamed Hersi, and Ms. Phyllis Wakiaga. The secretary of the fund will be Kennedy W. Kihara, while Dr. Fred Matiang'i and Governor Wycliffe Oparanya will act as joint representatives of the government in the fund. Of course, that is a story that just came in. We'll be filling you in with more information in our subsequent bulletins. But to that story I was telling you earlier on, and it is 17 days today after the country confirmed its first coronavirus case, which besides panic and fear, has seemingly sent the political class in self-quarantine, quite literally. The self-isolation and silence by politicians who until recently nearly burst the BBI drums is raising more questions than answers, like, where are your leaders? Scenes before the country caught the cold from the Chinese sneeze.
No one can stop reggae.
Hii reggae na bandi na waganga tutawakomesha Kenya hii.
Pockets of leaders championing for what they said was the best interest of the country.
Kama hutaki kufanya kazi na yule ambaye mumekula kiapo pamoja, basi ile kitu rahisi ni kukaa kando.
If Raila Odinga and ODM have two options, and one of them is William Ruto resigning, take it from me that William Ruto is not resigning.
BBI rallies were the order of the day each and every weekend as the political class took to the stage to raise their voices over the initiative that was supposed to build bridges to a united Kenya.
In due course, it was a question of when.
Then came this announcement that seemingly cast the spell of silence on leaders.
Fellow Kenyans, I want to inform you that the Ministry of Health has confirmed the first coronavirus case in Kenya,
who now seem to be on self-isolation quite literally, with changing times filled with uncertainties over repressed economy and a bleak future borne by the coronavirus pandemic.
And unfortunately, it is a health crisis that is bound to have financial and economic impact. And not to the positive, but rather to the negative.
Then came Wednesday last week.
And commencing immediately, my administration has offered a voluntary reduction in salaries of the senior ranks of the national executive.
And President Uhuru Kenyatta announced that he and members of the executive would take a voluntary pay cut. That was followed by the leadership of the two houses of the National Assembly.
And we have also agreed that we are going to take a salary cut of 30% of our salary for the next 3 months until the situation improves.
We expect that the Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury will be coming up with a mechanism of how those funds are going to be channeled.
It ended there. No other MP shows the willingness to take the cut. The same houses that abandons party affiliations every time and come together whenever they want to increase their salaries. The biggest questions on Kenyans' minds is where are the leaders and where are the donations that filled houses of worship every Sunday, which would come in handy at this time of dire need.
The leader of majority in the Senate, Kipchumba, 200,000 shillings. How are you? Kimani Ichung'wah he's the chairman of budget. He's the one who gives money to government.
8 million shillings here. Kenyans are now waking up to the realization that we are not in this together. But at a time when Kenyans need the guidance and leadership which they woke up at dawn to put to power, what they get is clearly what they did not sign up for. The leaders are relatively silent, and even some of those in the public domain now are not in it for so good reasons. Such is Gideon Saburi, the Kilifi Deputy County Governor who refused to self-quarantine after a trip abroad exposing hundreds of innocent Kenyans to the killer virus. Another one is Garsen MP Ali Wario, who is wanted by police for declining to take the test for COVID-19, claiming the gadgets were fake and substandard and would expose him to the disease. Let us now focus on mitigation measures of the COVID-19 in the counties. The county government of Uasin Gishu has embarked on a fumigation process in the town of Eldoret in a bid to curb the spread of the coronavirus. Now, this comes as the cases of COVID-19 continue to rise here in the country, now hitting 50. Meanwhile, journalists and human rights activists have condemned the manner in which police officers harassed them during their coverage of the daily 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. curfew. The two journalists, Joseph Wanyama and Charles Were, were arrested and asked to report to the DCI offices. The journalists and the activists protested to Central Police Station in Eldoret, demanding for their issues to be addressed.
Hata OCS alikuwa tungetulia, lakini
All right, we condemn in the strongest terms possible that assault on our colleagues in that particular county, hoping, of course, something will be done and done fast. But to the county government of Nakuru now, where the county government of Nakuru has, of course, launched a 250 million shilling food support program, Kitty, for families whose breadwinners have lost their employment due to the adverse effects of the coronavirus pandemic in the region. Now, Governor Lee Kinyanjui says that more than 70,000 jobs had fallen or had been lost rather in Naivasha sub-county following closure of horticultural farms after exports of flowers, fruits and vegetables were halted and international flights suspended in the wake of the pandemic.
According to the Nakuru Governor Lee Kinyanjui, over 4,000 employees working in the tourism and hospitality sector in Nakuru have been rendered jobless following closure of hotels and restricted travel regulations by key countries where visitors to tourist attraction sites originated from.
So if they're no longer working, there is no livelihoods, then we expect a serious humanitarian catastrophe. If you come to other towns of Njoro, Subukia, and also here in Nakuru, we have approximately another 50,000 who are employed directly and indirectly by the flower farm.
He said his administration was in talks with the private sector, individuals, non-governmental organizations and humanitarian agencies to increase the kiti, which he said was targeting vulnerable members of the society, especially those from low-income areas.
Nakuru is largely a tourism center, and now with restaurants and hotels only giving takeaway, it means we no longer need waiters. So if one hotel has lost 50, another one 100, another one 30. Effectively, we have another maybe 3,000-4,000 people who are back at home with no livelihood.
The governor, who was accompanied by County Commissioner Erastus Mbue Mwende, said his administration was working with the national government to enhance the number of people isolation centers can hold.
For as long as a significant number cannot eat and be at home and are not supported to be at home, then the curfew or even the lockdown when it comes may not be very effective.
Other measures include sanitizing all markets and banning of market days to reduce movement from one town to another. Mbue called upon all Nakuru residents above the age of 65 years to restrict movement, stay at home and avoid mixing with young people and children, especially those who had just migrated from cities and towns.
Naomba watu waendelee kuzingatia yale ambao wameambiwa kuhusu mikusanyiko ya watu haistahili kuwa zaidi ya watu 15 na wasingatie zile hatua kutoka kwa mmoja kwenda kwa mwingine iwe angalau mita moja.
New bus terminali have been established at Ziwani grounds, railway grounds opposite motor vehicle inspection units, county mortuary area and Kunste Hotel. Traders from the Nakuru main market have been redistributed to Afraha Stadium, Ronda Grounds and Githima Estate, while newly constructed markets have been opened at Mawanga, Kiratina and Teachers Estates.
Right from Nakuru County number 32 all the way to County number 45, where Kisii County government has strengthened measures to curb the coronavirus spread in the county. Now, County Secretary Patrick Lumumba said that the county is in the forefront of complementing the national government's anti-coronavirus campaign. He says that the residents who are being mobilized to collectively assist the two levels of government in implementing the regulations to curb the spread of the lethal virus. Through county ministers, key interventions were announced during a brief meeting outside the Kisii County offices.
That as Kisii County government, we accordingly support all the initiatives of His Excellency the President. As such, in order to help contribute towards the government's preparedness in the light against COVID-19, the government has urged the Kisii County executive staff to voluntarily take a reasonable salary pay cut effective 1st April 2020.
We have established a quarantine site at the Kisii Medical Training College with a capacity to hold 93 persons. This center is for persons who have recently jetted into the country and their close contacts. We have distributed 10 complete personal protective equipment, that is the PP kits, 200 masks, enough gloves to each of our sub-county hospitals. We have erected mini water tanks to serve as hand washing points in Kisii CBD and in other towns across the county. We are closely monitoring up to 60 persons who have been placed under voluntary quarantine, having traveled into the country from various countries. The situation: we have no confirmed case of coronavirus in Kisii.
All right, to Machakos now, where besides the disruption of the normal lives, the dusk to dawn curfew has left traders in various parts of the country lamenting over the now dire situation they have to take to deal with how to fend for their families. Residents in Tala, that is in Machakos County, are now asking the national government to provide necessities for the locals who depend on daily wages to feed their families.
As the dusk to dawn curfew continues to take effect, most traders in different parts of the country can feel the pinch of the curfew. Public transport providers have lamented over the lack of commuters, with many people now working from home.
Tuangalia watu wa matatu, manake watu wa matatu, hiyo time ya saa 12 ama saa 1 ndio wanabeba watu wakipeleka Tala. Na wakipeleka Nairobi ndio wanapata pesa. Kwa hivyo hata kama ni serikali imeweka curfew, waangalie watu wa matatu, waangalie vizuri sana.
Hii kazi imesimama, wafanyikazi wadogo kama mama kuuza mboga, wafanyikazi wa bodaboda na hawa vijana tunavuta mkokoteni, wengi wao wako kazi. Kwa hivyo tunaomba hii serikali itufanyie kama vile nchi zingine zinafanyiwa. Tunaomba serikali ya Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta itusaidie kwa sababu maisha imekuwa.
However, there are several who have supported the government's decision to have a daily curfew in a bid to curb the spread of coronavirus.
Tunaona nchi zingine ambazo curfew imewekwa, hiyo serikali inalisha watu wake. Sasa kama sisi watu mahasla wa hapa wa chini sana tunaumia sana. Manake unaangalia kama watu wa mkokoteni ambao wanasafirisha mizigo saa hiyo hawafanyi kazi. Watu wa bodaboda hawafanyi kazi. Wanabiashara wadogo kazi zao zimeaffectiwa pakubwa sana.
Tumeona venye serikali imeweka mikakati ya kwenda nyumbani saa 1, curfew si tunatii. Wacha twende nyumbani tujikinge, watu wakuwe salama. Na mimi chenye naambia watu watala, tukue safe, tukae nyumbani. Kifika saa 1, kila mtu akuwe kwa nyumba. Tutoke soko, tutii tu amri. Kwa muda tu kidogo, ugonjwa utatoka na tutakuwa free.
Meanwhile, in Migori County, the fishing community along Muhuru Bay beaches on Lake Victoria, whose main fishing activity starts at 7 p.m. in the evening till dawn, now claim that it is indeed so difficult to comply with the curfew that has drastically affected their night fishing activities in the freshwater lake.
Chakula pia hakuna. Kwa saa hizi chakula ambayo nilileta hapa hata haitoshi. Labda watatumia leo na kesha hawana la kutumia tena.
Ukimfungia hataweza akaenda lake wakati wa night, hakuna vile atapata daily needs. Sasa hapo kama serikali tunawaomba utaendelea kwa hiyo njia, kwa sababu hapo ukikaza sana raia watakufa kwa sababu ya njaa.
The fishermen are now forced to strictly operate for only 2 hours in the afternoon between 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. in the evening. The fishermen complain that during the day they do not get as much compared to the night hours.
Tumefunga ziwa, tunahangaika kwa kweli. Kila kitu tunategemea ni hapo ziwani.
Their worry is that the curfew will affect the economy while they will be left vulnerable with their daily source of income affected. They have asked the government to reconsider the curfew in certain areas, especially the Lake region.
All right, let us perch at Machakos County, take a very quick break, come back. We'll be starting, of course, from Machakos County as we go to Mombasa and other counties in mitigating the COVID-19 measures. You want to stick around for that. All right, welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Of course, we're going to take it from where we left it, that is in county number 16, where Machakos Governor Dr. Alfred Mutua has allayed fears that a patient who died in Kangundo Level 4 Hospital on Sunday died from the coronavirus disease. Dr. Mutua says that tests done by the government on the 21-year-old came back negative for the coronavirus. Mutua indicated that earlier tests on the patient showed that he had a bacterial information. All the way to County 001 now, where Mombasa Regional Police boss, that is Rashid Yakub, and IPOA have begun investigations into the alleged murder of 49-year-old Hamisi Juma Mabega, who was allegedly attacked by GSU officers at Mkunazini area in Ujamaa in Likoni on Friday 27th, following the coronavirus curfew meant to impose social distancing rules. Yakub further called on Kenyans to also come out and report any cases of police brutality exercised by unruly police officers during the curfew.
Ikiwa ofisa wangu ataonekana amefanya kitendo ambayo sio mzuri, ninahakikishia wananchi tukufu hatua tutaichukua kama vile mwananchi mwingine angechukuliwa. Hatuta defend officer yetu wale ambaye kazi yao ni kupiga wananchi. Katika nafikiri college zetu za polisi hakuna mahali ilisema mwananchi apigwe. Excess force hakuna. So whoever anafanya hiyo, officers zangu ujue anafanya kitu ambayo sheria haikubali.
Right, in other news now, the Stanbic Bank Kenya has announced a loan holiday for SMEs and its personal banking customers aimed at cushioning them against the economic disruptions caused by the coronavirus disease. The loan holiday will be effective from the 1st of April this year.
The coronavirus pandemic has sent world economies in recession, and the effect on the same on borrowers cannot be gainsaid. Subsequently, companies are trying to come up with the measures to battle the effect of the disease on the economy by proposing the measures that will lighten the burden on customers. The latest company to engage in such efforts is Stanbic Bank, which has announced a loan holiday to its customers. The facility will affect both individual and SMEs and will run up to 3 months and will apply to all SME loan facilities. Stanbic Bank Kenya's Chief Executive Charles Mudiwa says they recognize the effect on coronavirus pandemic, and in a bid to mitigate against disruption to our customers, the bank had come up with the measures. Mudiwa says the reality was that SMEs were going through a tough period, and Stanbic was committed to unlocking new solutions to allow them to continue run their businesses efficiently. The bank has called on commercial clients to contact the bank for assessment and restructuring of their loans based on their respective industry circumstances from the pandemic.
To more showers of worry for Kenyans, and more heavy rainfall is expected over some parts of Kenya in the coming days beginning on Tuesday. According to the Meteorological Department, parts of the country that will experience heavy rainfall are Taita Taveta, Kilifi, Lamu, Kwale and Kitui counties in the forecast that covers from the March 31st to April 6th. The weatherman notes that the moderate cumulatively rainfall between 27 and 70 millimeters will be expected over some parts of Tana River, Kajiado, Narok, Kirinyaga, Makueni, Mombasa and Kitui counties. In addition, high daily mean temperatures of above 30 degrees Celsius will be expected over much of northwestern parts, northeastern and eastern and even coastal counties. Low daily mean temperatures between 15 degrees are expected over central Kenya, the Central Rift Valley and some parts of western. The latest forecast showed that rains will pound areas around Lake Victoria, Rift Valley Highlands, Central and South Rift Valley and parts of central Kenya, including Nairobi. Now, this comes as a 67-year-old man died after he was swept away by floods in Rarieda, Siaya County on Saturday. Hundreds of families have, on the other hand, been displaced in various parts of Nyanza and Busia counties following the heavy rains that pound most parts of the country. Across our borders now, and an increasing number of businesses, both large and small, have recently joined in the battle against the novel coronavirus. A small business in the United States have changed the course from sewing boat sails to sewing cotton masks for caregivers on the frontliners. VOA's Arash Arabasadi set sail for this story.
On the coast of Maine, in an area known for its sailing, the industrial sewing machines that until recently sewed sails now make face masks.
We have the machines and some of the resources to be able to make these right away.
Owner and operator of North Sails, Eric Baldwin, says he and his staff of 2 learned how to make masks one Saturday morning and moved to full production by the afternoon.
Fun. It's something, something different that ultimately is going to help.
Maine has more than 5,600 kilometers of coastline. Sailboats and their maintenance drive much of the economy near the shore. Business slowed because of novel coronavirus, and one of Baldwin's staff suggested making masks.
Didn't even think twice about it. Knew that I had plenty of work, billable work that I could do, but wanted to be able to stop and do this for us to help.
The CDC says fabric masks like these should only be a last resort after exhausting other options. As global supplies dwindle, businesses like North Sails may be the ones supplying that last resort. Arash Arabasadi, VOA News, Washington. On the coast of Maine, and known for its sailing, the industrial sewing machines that until recently sewed.
Let us play now and begin with big news in the world of sports, where the Tokyo Olympics will now begin on July 23rd, 2021. Organizers said this evening after the coronavirus pandemic forced the historic decision to postpone the games until next year. The announcement comes less than a week after organizers were forced to delay the games under heavy pressure from athletes and sports federations as the global outbreak worsened. Only hours earlier, Mori had said that he expected a decision from the International Olympic Committee during the course of this week. But this evening, he said an emergency teleconference had been held with the IOC and the date finalized. The Tokyo 2020 Olympics were due to open on June 24th this year and run for 16 days, but the coronavirus pandemic forced the first peacetime postponements of the Games. The IOC and Japan had for weeks insisted that the show could go on, but the rapid spread of the COVID-19 prompted growing disquiet among athletes and sporting federations. Back home, and Harambee Starlets have dropped 4 places in the latest FIFA ranking released. And of course, David Ouma's side, which were just finished a 14-day quarantine after visiting Turkey for the Turkish Women's Cup, now occupies position 137 globally. In Turkey, the Sekafa champions beat Northern Ireland 2-0 before losing to Chile 5-0 and Ghana 3-1 in their group to bag the bronze medal. The home and away fixtures were postponed due to the coronavirus pandemic. Ethiopia remains the top-ranked country from the Sekafa region at position 111. Tanzania is 2 places behind Kenya in the FIFA rankings after descending 4 slots. Rwanda and Uganda occupy positions 144 and 146 worldwide after tumbling 4 places as well. Nigeria is the top-ranking country in Africa at position 38 after rising 1 spot. Now, Kakamega Homeboys players will be forced to forfeit half of their monthly salaries in line with the club's pay cut plans from next month. Homeboys chairperson, that is Cleophas Shimanyula, announced that the club had opted to revise their remuneration thanks to the coronavirus pandemic, which has halted sporting activities in the country and beyond. Shimanyula revealed that both the management and the players gave the decision a clean bill of health. He, however, said that the players will receive their March salaries in full. Homeboys are the first club playing their trade in the Kenyan Premier League to effect a pay cut in their players. While the players will be the most hit by the decision, the club's supportive staff will be pocketing their full salaries, according to Shimanyula. However, they will not be spared in case the country plunges into a total lockdown. Across our borders, and Javi Hernandez has reiterated his desire to coach Barcelona in the future, but suggests that he will not return until a different board brings a new sense of direction to the club. Hernandez is in charge of Al Sadd in Qatar and turned down an approach in January after Barca sacked Ernest Valverde, which led to the surprise appointment of Kiki Seitan. Javi mentioned the likes of Puyol, who he played with under Pep Guardiola, and Cruyff, son of Johanna and former Barca and Manchester United winger, as the kind of people he would like to work alongside. Of course, that is every Primetime News on this last Monday, the 30th day of March 2020. On behalf of the super amazing team that has helped put this bulletin together, thank you so much, Kenneth, for watching. Of course, as you continue to maintain the guidelines issued by the WHO and the Ministry of Health, where you need to observe social distancing, wash your hands with soap and water, and if you cannot do that, of course, use recommended hand sanitizers. Stay home. If you have to leave the house, ensure that you must have a valid reason of leaving the house. And if you all do that, we're going to reduce the spread of these coronavirus cases in our country. Good night. My name is Kenneth Kazungu. Our sign language interpreter for tonight has been the lovely Joyce Werimo.